Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gotham. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, obviously we're picking up where last week's episode left off with Haven in disarray and destruction like it is. It's a point that's kind of brought up that's kind of interesting, and the fact is that apparently they had to use their own drinking water to put out the fire too. I mean, we don't know how much of that they used, but still. And there were a lot of casualties, at least I think from what Jim was saying, it was like 311 people at first, which is like, geez, which of course is going to include the kid he just deputized last episode and everything for his help and everything. So that's sad in the long run. But what really surprised me is that Penguin stepped up to help. He hands over, he's like, oh, you don't have men and ammunition, so I'm going to supply you with both, because he's all about catching his bomber. And the same thing is said about Barbara, too. Now, Jim is like, oh, because Barbara's worried that Sirens might be next. But even she's like, wait, you thought I was actually capable of this? And even he's like, I don't know, but she's like, I guess I deserve that, all the stuff I've kind of done and committed. Like, you know, I'm not the same Barbara that you knew once upon a time. Maybe if it was that Barbara, you would never believe it. But me being who I am now, yeah, of course, that's not too much of a stretch for you. Because she's like, even if she wanted to get Penguin, she wouldn't go about it that way. So that was such an interesting thing to me, that both of them are, because like I said, it seems like it might be about Sirens, at least in Barbara's case, but I don't think so. I think legitimately, like, she wants to run things her own way, but Barbara's never, she's had her manic moments of kind of being like, you know, Gotham crazy, but it's like she never goes that wild to do something like catastrophic like that, put a lot of people, innocent people, like if she ever goes after anyone, it's typically other criminals. That's why, like, she kind of tiptoes that line, interestingly enough. I never thought about that until now, but it's like she doesn't typically go after innocent people, so it's just kind of interesting because she even had the opportunity to put Penguin down, but after seeing everything around it, I guess she just felt like it wasn't the right moment. Like, there was so much pain and suffering and so many people hurt, so many people killed. I guess she just didn't want to add more to the bloodshed. It was a tragedy that was already happening. She didn't want to add to it. She didn't want her vendetta, I guess, to get in the way of finding out, you know, and getting justice in this regard. So that's what this is all about. Interestingly enough, this all leads to Victor Zsasz, which, holy crap, does he have some of the best lines in this episode. Just every word out his mouth is so good. And because Gordon and Penguin look, they're like, wait, don't we recognize that voice? And he goes, Zsasz? And then he's like, hey, what's up, guys? And he continues shooting and stuff like that. And then Penguin's getting so pissed because it's like, oh, of course you had nothing to do with this. Because Zsasz is like, why would I take pride? You know, why would I take, you know, someone else's accomplishment? If I did it, I'd admit I did it. But I'm not going to take away something else somebody else did. You know, kind of, I guess, like a criminal honor code of some sort. And then Penguin's like, oh, you who likes to stab everyone in the back. And he's like, is this still about Sophia Falcone? You got to let that go. It's terrible for your health. It's just like, huh. Even him drinking from his cup when bullets are flying his direction. Even at the precinct, it's like, oh, this table is so nice. He's like, yeah, I'll try to steal from you guys. Yeah, I was trying to find some peaches. Man, I'd give anything, an arm and a leg for some peaches right now. But he was like, canned peaches. But he's like, I mean, obviously not mine. Someone else's, of course. And even being like, if you want to, like, if I really did that, I'd do the whole, you know, you'd find more scars on my body, which, I mean, if you want to, you can search me. If you had to get anyone, I'd get Alvarez. He's handsome. Which is also interesting, because that brings up something I thought about. Like, I don't think that's ever come up this entire series, like Victor saying. Like, I mean, for one, if you're not aware, because I'm pretty sure he's never done it, at least on camera. Maybe he has in just early days and I just don't remember. But Victor Zsasz's whole thing is when he kills people, he marks his body. But it's like, I don't ever remember Zsasz exposing his body. I mean, it's like, yes, because I forget, because his scars are all on his torso. Like torso, stomach, all that. But it's like, probably on his back too, I think. But it's like, I've never seen him outside of a suit. We've never seen his chest. So I guess it's something that's just referenced. I feel like I don't ever really remember them referencing that before. But once again, it's been a while since I've seen the earlier season, so maybe that's just slipping my mind. But I feel like this is the first time he ever outwardly admit, like, oh yeah, if there were all those people, you'd see all these scars on my body. You want to check? And it's like, huh. That was just kind of interesting to me. Because like, I feel like that's the first time they've ever pointed that aspect of his character out. But maybe they pointed it out before. But then you have Penguin doing the whole thing of putting Victor Zsasz on trial. In the long run of things, I'm curious, was that always Penguin's plan? Did he? Because Jim, you know, ends up finding out from Lucius and Ed that it was someone else, because it was like an RPG fired into the building to hit like the heating oil system that would ignite the whole building. I love that Ed and Lucius had to work together. Lucius actually went to, well, Lucius caught him stealing a file, but he was like, okay, I need your help, because it's like, and, you know, Ed complimenting him, you know, kind of a backwards compliment, being like, oh, the second smartest man in Gotham asking me for help. So that was interesting. I also love him trying to take the file from Lucius. And Lucius is like, why did you, he's almost like, stop, dude, this looks so pathetic. He's just, okay, fine. You know, it's just like, wow. Lucius has got a strong grip. If like you literally using both his hands, Ed couldn't take the file out of his hand. That's incredible. But I also love it. It's like, oh yeah, you must have figured out that this is the building where the RPG came from, because you calculated everything for the building, blah, 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 math stuff. And he's like, yeah. And then Lucius is like, yeah, but also the RPG case is over there. Yeah, that's a pretty big giveaway. But yeah, what I thought was interesting about that, like, even with that being said, Penguin didn't really want to listen. He's even being like, oh, yes, like Jim is going soft. But the way he went about things at the end, being like, they don't believe in you anymore, Jim. They're mine now. Makes me go, so everything up to this point was just you doing that. I mean, for one, he wants Victor dead anyway because of the whole Sophia situation, that betrayal. But it's like, because it doesn't even seem like it's a situation of you fully believe that Zsasz did it. Just like you were getting an excuse. Because, I mean, he was pissed at, you know, Jim for gathering up all his people, convincing him to come back. Obviously, he's pissed because some of his people died and all that. But that's what Penguin does. He riles people up, and he's always trying to pretend like he's looking out for people's best interest, when plenty of people ran away from him because he wasn't looking out for their best interest. But that's always what Penguin's does. He's able to kind of, you know, he's able to feed into that aspect of people when people are angry, pissed, and scared. Like, he's able to really feed into that, because even Gordon's trying to talk to these people. It's like, all the evidence show that Zsasz didn't do this. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, I get it. You're angry. You're scared. But the fact of the matter is, this isn't justice. It's because it's like, we're probably not going to get any help. We're on our own. But what we do now is more important than anything, because essentially it's like, what decisions we make now, because we're the ones that have to hold ourselves accountable for these things. What decisions we make will determine who we are, what kind of people we are. If we do this killing Zsasz, even though he's not guilty, that makes us monsters. And, you know, so he managed to get away with Zsasz. I also love Penguin being like, any final words? And Zsasz is like, with the tape on his mouth, and he's like, well said, or something like that. I was like, I'm actually curious. I bet you if you probably went back, if you unmutter his mouth, he probably actually did say something. I wonder, did they get the actor to actually say something, or is it just like some random BS? He's just supposed to make noises or something, or did he actually say something, but it's supposed to be muffled so you don't actually hear him saying whatever random crap he's saying? Or is there something legitimate, like a legitimate audio, legitimate words that were like written in the script for him that actually, I don't know. Maybe it was ad-libbed. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think about. But Zsasz, you know, Jim ends up letting him go, being, you know, but Zsasz is like, the fact of the matter is, this city will never be what you want it to be. The fact of the matter is, it'll always belong to bad guys like me. And Jim's like, okay, Harvey, give him your guns. Like, what? Challenging him to like almost like a, you know, a shootout. And then Zsasz is like, you know, I'll win. I'll kill you and Harvey. He's like, maybe. And I was like, does Jim have something up his sleeve or something? Like, what? I guess it was because, you know, Jim just had enough. He was just pissed. And he was like, this city will never belong to people like you. Now get the hell out of my face. I love Zsasz quickly being like, you look tired, Jim. You know, it's like, oh, we should just let this go and save it for some other time. Be seeing you around, Jim. Which is like, ugh. But even Harvey being pissed at him doing that, he's like, essentially get yourself together. I think it's interesting because this episode plays into that role of like, obviously Jim has been keeping people's hopes up, you know, even turning off the big light, because even Barbara comments like, oh, didn't pay your electric bill or something like that. And it's like, because it's reflective of him, because he's been holding up hope, not just for himself, but the entire city. And that's a weight that's like, when you're trying to have hope, not just for yourself, hope big enough for an entire city, that starts chipping away at yourself. And it's like, he's barely been holding himself up and believing, you know, and hoping, you know, he's trying to keep other people hopeful when his hopes are dwindling because they're chipping away at his own hope too. And it seems like a desperate situation that's just not going anywhere. So what I thought was interesting though was the whole him and Barbara situation. I was like, oh, she's about to make moves. I was like, oh, she's walking away, and then they start making out, and I'm like, oh, that's Interesting. What does that mean? Where does that go? Because let's not forget, there's still the whole like, well, you do have a daughter named Barbara, so I don't know how they plan on playing that out in that situation, because that's always been something in the back of my mind. I was like, yeah, you and Barbara aren't together. It's like you and Lee are together. You were going to have a kid, but that sadly ended the way it did. And it's like, so I was like, I'm assuming she's not going to have the name Barbara. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting if you did name her Barbara, which makes me think it must be a situation of like you name her Barbara after like Barbara because of like something must happen to her later on that when he does have a daughter, he wants to name her Barbara to remember, which is, I'm sure can be in this continuity, remembering the woman that you were once engaged to who ended up becoming this crime boss in a sense. / villain, because I don't know what to really label her, because I'm about to say villain, but I guess she is a villain, but she hasn't really, I mean, to be fair, I guess it's kind of on this, I guess crime boss is kind of like the biggest descriptor, I guess. It'd be kind of interesting if that was the route they go down, because I assume that's what that's going to be, but we'll see in the long run, because maybe there's going to be more of this Jim and Barbara thing, or maybe not. I guess, out of anyone, like, even though they have their differences and stuff like that, I'm guessing out of anyone, she probably knows Jim better than anyone else. So, I guess while he's kind of falling into the darkness and stuff. Side note, you know what I just thought about? I hadn't thought about in years? The actress who plays Barbara isn't American. I just remembered that because I was like, right, because I remember like early day previews, like back in season 1, she was talking in her natural accent, like during some of the previews and stuff for the show and stuff. I was like, right, I can't remember what she is. She might be Australian or British. I don't remember, but I remember being like, holy crap, I'd completely forgotten about that. I don't know why that randomly came back to my mind. I guess all this stuff, because I brought it up before too, it got me thinking about Barbara back in season 1. I'm like, right, I'd completely forgotten about that aspect to it. That I don't know, that was just something interesting floating back in my head. I'm sorry I'm going on a big tangent like that, but still, I'm very interested to see what the hell that's all going to go. Plus, we end up getting to reveal that it was Ed behind. I mean, like I said, I thought it was. I was pretty sure everything was going to be Jeremiah and connected, but it turns out it's all connected to Ed. Like, he was the one with the RPG, because whoever did the RPG this time also did it with the helicopter, so it had been him that time too, which also makes me wonder, is there some kind of connection to Jeremiah in that regard? Like, did Jeremiah kind of manipulate him or control him into doing that, or what? Because it did seem like when we kind of rewind it a little bit, when we kind of get that flashback of it, it's like, it seems like he was kind of in like a state, which that dude from the Street Demons Tank had already said that too about his situation of how he looked in that regard. So I'm curious, like, what's up with that whole situation? I mean, once again, we still don't know what happened to him between season 4 and now, in that 3-month span. We don't know what happened to him, because once again, we haven't even touched the whole Hugo Strange situation, the Lee thing. Like, that's still all a enigma. So that's definitely going to be interesting. So, especially, which is kind of sad, because it's like, yeah, him and Lucius actually worked together to figure it out. And even Lucius is like, honestly, I couldn't have done this without you. And if you tell anybody about that, I will deny it. So it's like, it was almost interesting, because I'm sure it's very interesting too, because it's like Ed kind of almost went back to where he was at the beginning of the story too. It's just kind of interesting, the parallels. I think maybe that's the point too, because it's like he was investigating and stuff like that, which he hasn't been a part of the investigation type of thing since like season 2 was the last time, I think. Because that was before he really stepped up the Riddler stuff. Season 2 was when he really stepped it up, when he was still trying to be Ed and working and everything. So, I don't know. I wonder, is that going to change Penguin's mind when he finds out that Ed's the one behind this? Like, what's that going to mean? I mean, that's a complicated can of worms in itself, but especially like if he finds out. I mean, I'm sure he'd probably go after Ed just because also it's like, oh, this new people joining him, having left Gordon, it's probably like, oh, I gotta, rile up my people and lead the charge and stuff like that. So there's that side of things. But what kind of plays into my thought of like this having everything to do with Jeremiah? Because it turns out that group that was kidnapping the kids and holding them and making them be labor, digging a hole, turns out that's all for Jeremiah. Like, Jeremiah slit that dude's throat. It turns out he wasn't dead, but now he is. And actually licks the blood off the blade too. That was interesting. I also love that Alfred showed up in time to help Bruce, who is still handcuffed. Guys with masks show up and try to fight him, but I mean, you know, he fights him off until Alfred shows up, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" He's like, "Oh, I got caught off guard." He's like, "Oh, really? I think you're lying." Which he goes, "Yes, it was Selena." He's like, "One day you're going to learn that you can't save that girl from herself, but today I guess isn't that day, so let's go find her." I also love the whole situation between Jeremiah and, like I said, Harley. I like that, where it's just he's like, because she's like, "Oh, I thought you'd want quality over quantity." And he's like, "Yeah, you kind of set up a very high bar for anyone to cross." Like her whole situation of, like, once again, the bullet still being in her, but they start dancing and everything, and it's like, oh, almost cute and everything. It's like, huh, in a twisted way. And she kind of says a line that I thought was more like dark humor that I don't know why it kind of made me laugh a little bit. I went, oh crap. She was like, "All right, okay, recruits, let's do what my dad did before my 6th birthday. Move out." I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. It's one of those things. It's like, that's kind of morbid humor, and I like that. I don't know why that just made me laugh a little bit when I heard that. I was like, that's sad, you know. I can't believe. I guess just because the fact is they made a dark joke like that. That was geez. But nevertheless, I was actually surprised that Selena got close to Jeremiah like that, stabbed him multiple times. Like, there's no way he's dead. I was like, what was all of that? Like, do you have rapid healing or something? Because I don't think the Joker's ever been like crazy or anything like that. With like, I mean, I know there's instances in the comic books where he's gotten powers, but I don't know if he's ever been in a situation where he's had like rapid healing or something. So it's like, was that someone pretending to be Jeremiah, or was that actually him? Like, what's going on with that? Like, I mean, she stabbed him a couple times, but the job wasn't done, so who knows? I was actually surprised we actually saw him too, because remember what I said? I was like, I'm so certain. I was like, we probably won't see him till near the end of the season, if not like the final episode. But it was like, no, here he is in episode 4. That was interesting. I didn't expect to actually see him, because I thought the entire time when we saw him when Slice that dude started, I was like, oh, is it Jeremiah? I was like, no, it's going to be someone wearing a mask or something, pretending to be him, and Selena's going to get close, and it's not going to be him. Thought that was it. Turned out it was him. Potential, like I said, there's still a possibility that it could be someone kind of fake. Well, let's not forget. I mean, I don't know if they do that, but there's always the Clayface angle. Like, that could just as easily be Clayface. I mean, it's not like they haven't introduced. I mean, he's the bad guy to be like. I mean, you haven't seen him since season 2. I think that was the last time we saw Clayface. So that could be that. Maybe not. That's the only thing I can think of currently with what they've set up. Maybe there's something else. Maybe he did some stuff, but. And I was sitting here thinking about it, like the whole, once again, like the only people who would know about the Wayne Enterprise helicopter and stuff like that, I feel like it would be Jeremiah. It had to be someone who knew about Wayne Industries. He was connected to Wayne Enterprise and whatnot. So it's like I said, that kind of plays into why I think him and Penguin, or not him and Penguin, but him and Riddler are teamed up in that regard. Who knows? But I'm very interested to see where all that takes us, especially because it's like Selena thinks she got her revenge and everything, but what does that mean for her and Bruce? Like, Bruce has crossed that line and saw how devastated he was. And, obviously, like after the Ra's al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul situation in season 4, like how he kind of broke down, like how that shifted something inside of him. To be fair, Selena's already shifted herself. So, like I said, I get the feeling like we're going to get a situation where she kind of leaves Bruce behind to go hang out with Ivy, because like Ivy's the only one that can understand her, who she is now and what she's going through. Maybe she thinks like, you know, Bruce is too much of a Boy Scout in a sense. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this, because like I said, all these dynamics that are kind of popping up, like obviously like the Barbara and Gordon situation, and where, you know, Selena and Bruce are standing, which I love. Once again, I didn't talk about, but I do appreciate that line from Alfred, because it's very reflective of Batman and, you know, Catwoman's future, of just him always kind of like trusting her even though he shouldn't, because it's like they have that complicated relationship. And I think where they stand right now, like obviously we have that complicated relationship, but I believe it's going to grow even more as they get older, obviously, because it's like, because I feel like, because it's interesting, because I don't know if typically in any continuity they have the history that they have in this continuity. So I think that's going to add an interesting level to Catwoman and Batman's, you know, future in this continuity. So it's, I don't know, it's just something that's kind of rolling around in my head. So I also forgot to talk about this too. There was that moment where Jeremiah was talking to himself back and forth. I was like, what's up with that? Is that just kind of him as being crazy as Joker, or is that a situation of like where he's kind of got a dual personality thing going on, where there's like the Jerome side of him kind of kicking in, and then, you know, like some deep-seated layer of his brother in there, or, you know, balancing with the whole Jeremiah situation? Or is that him, you know, is that proof of the other thing I was talking about, the whole Clayface thing, or at the very least someone else pretending to be? I have no idea. It was just something interesting I thought. I was like, what's that supposed to be? Maybe it's just kind of a small thing of being like how crazy he is, but he never did that last season, so not unless it's just like something else happened to kind of break him potentially even more. Like, who knows? But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.